Hey guys! So today's video is going to be another disability discourse, but today's is going to be a little bit different. We're going to be talking about something that I haven't spoken about on my channel before, and that is sex and sexuality in general. There's a few reasons that I think it's really important to discuss being disabled and or chronically ill and sex and sexuality, and those are first, as I'm sure you're well aware if you are disabled, we are desexualized by society, and it's kind of either assumed that we don't have sex or thought that we shouldn't have sex for some reason, and this isn't true for most of us, so that's the first reason. Second is that often being disabled or chronically ill can mess with your sexual awakening if you are disabled prior to that. And if you become disabled or chronically ill after your sexual awakening, it can again mess with your identity and how you identify as a sexual being, because it changes a lot of things. So I think it's really important to discuss these things openly and just to have a chat about them. All of these things, a little disclaimer, all of these things that I'm going to talk about are still things that I'm working through myself and still things that I struggle with to this day. So please don't take everything that I say as gospel or anything like that. I'm just going to offer some things that I've learned along the way, and hopefully they can help you out. And again, if you have any more experience or like anything else that you would like to add to this conversation, please do so. I always love hearing from you guys, and a lot of you will know a lot more about all of this than I do. So anyway, let's get into it. The first thing that I want to make very clear is that it is completely normal for pain and illness to lower your sex drive. The way that I've explained this to able people in the past is by saying that imagine you have a flu, like a really bad flu. You're just exhausted, you feel really sick, you feel really gross, basically the antithesis of sexy. You just feel the most unsexy. And that's how chronic illnesses can feel a lot of the time. It's completely normal. You are not broken if you don't feel like having sex because you're sick and or in pain. So let's just get that right out of the way. It's absolutely normal for your sex drive and libido to lower. And as well, some medications can do this. In fact, a lot of medications can do this. So that's another thing that might factor into your sex drive. So the only thing that I will say about this is that while it is completely normal, it is of course important if you have a partner to discuss this with them, because while your sexual needs are changing and like possibly might not come back or might like change permanently, you just can't really tell. You need to discuss this with your partner because their sexual needs likely haven't changed. So it's very important to be super open and communicative about this. If you have a partner or if you are seeing someone new, it's just like an important conversation to have, you know? I think the flu analogy is a really good one, although it obviously doesn't help if your libidos are super mismatched. But I think that explaining it to people in ways that they can understand really helps, because often people just see it as like, oh, you just never want to have sex because you just don't want to have sex. It's like, no, I feel terrible and I'm in a lot of pain. Like, there's many reasons that I don't want to have sex. But okay, so completely normal to not feel like having sex when you're in a lot of pain and feeling pretty gross. However, something that is very important to discuss with people that you might be planning on having sex with on a regular basis. With that being said, however, sex is an important part of self-care for many people. Sex is a way of showing and receiving intimacy. Sex is a way of feeling good about yourself. Sex is a way of feeling close to someone. It's just an important part of feeling good in a lot of different ways for a lot of people. So it's difficult not to just write sex off when, especially if you have chronic pain a lot of the time. It's very easy to just say, right, well, I guess sex is off the table because it's too much, I can't do it, I'm in too much pain, it takes too much energy, you know? And I think that as you move forward with that thought process, you might find yourself suffering in ways that you didn't expect. If sex is an important part of your self-care routine and something that makes you feel good, and especially if you're in a relationship or relationships where sex is an important part of those, it's going to be really tough to replace that with other things. It is possible, but you need to think about it in terms of that, right? Like, imagine you're taking something away from yourself and you need to find ways to either make sure that you can do that thing, like whether that's modifications or toys or whatever that might be, or replace it with other things that bring you the same types of pleasure. So you might be someone for whom cuddling is like a really important way of showing intimacy. You might be someone who likes giving gifts or receiving gifts. It's important to recognize in yourself what sex gives to you or doesn't give to you, and if it's worth exploring how you might be able to still be sexually intimate with someone or someone's. And if that's not an option for you, or if that's not something that's important to you, it is important to figure out other ways of getting this intimacy and this closeness. So I think some really great ways of still being sexually intimate are, for example, reading erotica together. I think that's fantastic. I think if you're into porn, watching porn together is also a great way of being intimate and sexual with someone without having to physically do very much. You can always take pictures or have someone take pictures of you. You can watch someone doing something sexual, like your partner or whoever, or they can watch you doing something sexual, because sometimes you doing it to yourself isn't quite as energy intensive or painful as someone else doing things with or to you. So those are just some ideas. Obviously, this will be different for everyone. Everyone's limits are different and everyone's energy levels are different. So just try and be creative. Like, there's plenty of ways to be sexual that aren't just straight intercourse, you know? There's plenty of things that you can do that are sexual and intimate with someone that don't just involve penetrative sex. So yeah, think about it, be creative, get into it, get your partner into it, ask your partner or partners if they have any ideas. It can be really fun and really interesting. Like, don't just write sex off if it's something that you enjoy. You can still try a whole lot of things. So communication is of course key in any relationship, but I think it's especially important in relationships that are sexual in nature if you are a disabled or chronically ill person. Don't be afraid to be honest and open about your sexual needs or things that you really don't want or can't do anymore. If you might want sex on a certain day, for example, the opposite of when you've taken your medication, like you take your libido lowering medication on a Monday and you want to have sex on a Thursday, let them know that. If certain positions don't work for you because of pain, let them know that. If you might need to change positions a lot because you cramp up or whatever, let them know that. Just don't be afraid to be open and honest. It can be difficult because I think as a society we don't necessarily encourage open discussion about sex, even though sex sells and, you know, we see sex and sexuality like in a lot of places. I feel like there's not really a glamorization of talking openly about sex with your partner, like just sitting down and being like, hey, how do you feel about this? Like, this is how I feel about it. This is what I would like. This is what I don't like. But I think those conversations are so important to have because your partner needs to know that, or your partners need to know that. And I think it's important for you as well, because otherwise you're just going to end up not really enjoying something that you should really be enjoying, you know? And you might think that you don't enjoy it, or you might, because you've been doing it one way, that's not the right way for you. But if you maybe tried some other ways, perhaps it would work out a little bit better. I'm sorry, I'm trying not to get too graphic here because like I realize that not everyone who watches this video is going to want me to just talk about very graphic, intense sexual things. So I'm trying very hard to keep it like vague. And also I realize not everyone is going to like the same thing. So it's probably better if I keep it vague and let you fill in the blanks for the things that you like. So anyway, communication is super, super important. Do try and practice open and honest communication and encourage your partner or partners to do the same. Next up, and again, I'm going to have trouble not getting too graphic here, but I'm going to do my best. Have a look around at what is available in terms of toys and items that might help you have sex in a way that is easier for your body or more pleasurable for your body. I highly recommend just browsing some stores online and checking out what's out there, because you might be surprised. There is a lot available, and while different things are going to be good for different people, I can give you a couple of examples of things that I feel like are good for people with chronic pain. So first off, sex swings, or anything like harnesses and things that can help take some of your weight or allow you to just be in a relaxed position during sex. Those I've heard great things about from quite a few of my chronically ill friends. Definitely look into those. Obviously, again, different types of those will be better for different people. And second is anything with a remote control. So like a vibrator with a little remote control. This just means that you don't have to have your hand down there the whole time, which can get kind of uncomfortable if you have hand or wrist problems. I won't go into any more examples because I feel like it's really hard to do this without getting into too much detail, but I hope that's given you like a couple of ideas, and maybe you can just go and have a look on your own and check out what's available, because I was surprised by what's out there. Much like assistive technology, I just didn't know half of this stuff existed, so you might not either. You might be surprised. So the last thing that I want to talk about is sex as a reality versus the sex that you might think of when you think of sex, or the sex that you see when you watch movies or watch TV shows or read books. So first of all, sex is different for everyone, disabled or not. Sex doesn't look like it does in the movies for anyone. It's a super personal thing, and it's up to you and your partner or partners how sex works for you in your relationship. There's no right or wrong way, apart from consensual, to have sex, and there's no good or bad way to have sex. So I think one of the really important things about self-discovery as a disabled person is breaking down these preconceived notions of what sex should or shouldn't look like for you. So for example, spontaneous sex might be completely off the table for you, like you need to put aside some spoons and make sure that you have the energy, so you might have to plan your sexual encounters, and that's completely fine. It's not something that we see often portrayed in media, but it's absolutely fine to do that. Another thing is you might need to take breaks in the middle, like you might cramp up, or you might be in too much pain, or you might get tired and you need to take breaks, and that's also fine. Everything is okay. Everything is on the table, and sometimes sex is even on the table. Like, it's just a matter of you having a look at yourself and thinking what might make sex better or easier or more possible for you and your partner or partners. Anything goes, and it's up to you to discuss that with your partner and figure out what both of you want and how to make that happen. So I think, yeah, it's just very important to have a look at the way that you're having sex and the way that you might want to have sex, rather than just taking it as read that sex will be a certain way, because that's how it was either before you became disabled, or if you didn't have sex before you became disabled, how it looks in the media. Because honestly, no one has sex like how it looks in the media. No one at all. Okay, so that is it for our little chat about sex and sexuality while being disabled or chronically ill. I hope that it's been informative, or at least entertaining for you to watch me struggle to try and keep this as vague as possible. And as I said at the beginning, if you have any other thoughts or feelings about this, or more experience than me, which I'm sure a lot of you do, please have a chat in the comments. I try to reply to everyone, and I always really enjoy hearing what you guys have to say. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.